If you wish your ancestors gave you better DNA, you're not alone. Epigenetics expert Dr. Sarah Gottfried says we could all use an upgrade in that department.
I've tested a lot of people over the past 12 years in terms of genomics, and everyone has 2 to 5 not so great genes,
Including herself.
I happen to have a problem with genes related to weight gain. So I have one gene in particular called the fatso gene, FTO, and it just makes me programmed to be about 200 pounds no matter what I do.
But as you can see, Dr. Gottfried silenced it.
So one of the ways of turning the switch off for the FTO gene is to eat a low-carb diet, kind of the right amount of carbs, mostly from vegetables. The other thing that I do is I exercise for a minimum of 30 to 60 minutes a day. So high-intensity interval training is really good for me in terms of silencing this gene and making sure that it's not raising my body mass index and making me fatter.
Some people are afraid to take these DNA tests because they don't want to know if they have a bad gene like the one for Alzheimer's. But many experts say it's better to know because there are ways to silence these genes. For instance, in his book, The End of Alzheimer's, researcher Dr. Dale Bredesen lists dozens of lifestyle changes that have proven effective in squelching the Alzheimer's gene for hundreds of patients.
If there are specific exposures, you want to get rid of those. If there are specific nutritional changes, you want to address those. If there are hormonal changes, you want to address those. If there are inflammatory changes, address those.
For example, eating a low-sugar diet, taking certain supplements like curcumin, and avoiding neurotoxic chemicals such as synthetic fragrances.
Alzheimer's disease is no longer a mystery. You don't have to say, we don't know why you get it, we don't know what to do about it. We do know why you get it, we do know what to do about it, and we know how to prevent it.
In his book, Change Your Genes, Change Your Life, Dr. Kenneth Pelletier says DNA is not our destiny.
At first, I thought, like everyone, that genetics determines who we are. Color of your hair, your height, the diseases you'll get, how long you'll live. And then as I got further into it, I realized that was not the case.
For example, twins with the same genes but different lifestyles often experience different health outcomes.
So there may be a 40% that one twin will have heart disease, but not the other. It's very low with cancer, maybe 30%. So all of these very strong genetic pushes for major diseases were not showing up in the twin studies. And they said, what's going on here? And that was the beginning of kind of epigenetics.
So when it comes to our genes, our behavior can carry consequences for ourselves and our ancestors.
Well, we're going to get a little more specific about what behavior does do things, what turns on and turns off certain genes. We've got CBN's medical reporter, Lorie Johnson, with us. And Lorie, let's get specific. I will confess, I came from a school, I don't know if it's biological determinism, but, you know, breeding will out kind of thing, that, you know, you inherit a great deal from your parents. Now, the nurture can change things, you know, so it's nature and nurture, but nature takes a predominant role. You say no, that actually we can change that.
Well, they're both, you know, fields of thought. They're being battered back and forth. How much of it is your genes and how much of it is your upbringing? And I think they're realizing now, scientists are, that it's a lot of both. So you can have genes that are not so great, like genes that cause you to gain weight, even things like Alzheimer's. I know. Honey, you're preaching to the choir.
All right, how do I turn it off? That's
right. Well,
how do I turn it off?
Those bad genes by, for one thing, diet. We know that we could talk for an hour about what makes a good diet, but the top 3 things for diet are avoid sugar, avoid processed foods, and eat lots of vegetables. A lot of people I interview say if you can try to eat vegetables at every meal, not entirely vegetables, but some vegetables at every meal, you're doing great.
Well, I'm doing all that. It's not. I'm not seeing any results. I mean, what sort of time frame should you look for? How long do you have to keep this?
Well, indefinitely. This is something. This is a lifestyle that we should be avoiding sugar and processed foods and eating as many vegetables as possible for the rest of our lives.
I've been off the processed foods for good couple of decades. The sugar only recently. And,
Great.
And I have turned definitely to let's go vegetable.
Yes, excellent,
vegetable.
excellent. Well, when we talk about processed food, we're talking in many ways about toxins, and avoiding toxins is another very important thing as far as turning off those bad genes and turning on the good ones. And when we talk about toxins, the big one is cigarette smoke. So avoid cigarettes. And then also other types of toxins that we run into are things like pesticides and other chemicals in our daily lives. We need to try to.
What do they do to your genes?
Well, these toxins can turn off the good genes and turn on the bad genes, like cigarette smoke. We know there are other toxins out there, like we know plastics, neurotoxins, and these are things we talked about, the Alzheimer's gene, the APOE gene, that Dr. Bredesen says neurotoxins are in things like artificial fragrances. A lot of people don't realize this, but these artificial fragrances are everywhere. I'm not talking about just the plug-ins or the stuff that we spray in our bathrooms, but artificially scented candles, which are so popular this time of year, and artificial fragrances in our laundry detergent, even perfume. So if you're thinking about giving your wife perfume, even expensive perfume for Christmas, you might want to think again.
I'm actually quite hypersensitive to those things, and so I've eliminated. I don't have anything like that.
Great.
Because I just get this natural reaction.
It bothers you, so
it really
it's
has
a red
an effect
flag
on me, and it's like, no, I don't want that around me.
And we know that these things that we can find toxins in our cleaning products. So we need to. It's impossible to get rid of all the toxins in our lives, but we need to try to reduce that load. Ladies, lots of toxins in our beauty products, the hairspray and the makeup and the lotions and the potions. It goes on and on. And then the third way that we can turn off these bad genes and turn on the good ones, and this is huge, is reducing stress. So again, we can't get rid of it entirely, but we know that getting the right amount of...
That's the problem.
Oh, yeah, the right amount of sleep.
Doesn't matter about my diet.
Exercise is a great way to reduce stress. And then, of course, prayer. We know that Jesus is the Prince of Peace. We know that Jesus talks so much about peace, and through him we can find peace. And think about it. Peace is the opposite of stress. So good news is you don't have to get rid of all these circumstantial stressors in your life. Let's say you're living with someone with some sort of chronic illness, or you've got a long commute to work. You don't have to get rid of these things. Grow closer to the Lord, and Jesus will help us reduce our stress level without having to change any of the other circumstances in our life. And you know, this time of year especially, stress ramps up for far too many people because of the holiday stress. So if you're struggling financially, it's amplified at Christmas time. If you're lonely, which is actually a very severe form of stress, that's amplified at Christmas time. And if you're having relationship difficulties, if you've lost a loved one in particular, that's also made especially bad during the holidays. And I'm going to be talking about ways to relieve holiday stress on my show, Healthy Living, which is on the CBN News Channel. So the CBN News Channel is on nationwide in lots of cities and coming to many more. If you don't have it in your hometown, you can still watch it online. On cbnnews.com.
And on the app, which is available for Roku, every smart TV, Amazon Fire, all the different devices, so you can actually get the app and have it on your TV.
So we have our own 24-hour news channel, Christian-based.
Which for me is the best way to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It goes with you everywhere. So, all right, if you want to know more, Lorie's show, it's 9:30 on Tuesday night. It's also an evergreen, so you can always watch it online, where you can just watch that particular show. Just ask for it.